I experience culture shock in China like every day. Every day something happens here and I'm like, what is going on?
Hello everyone, my name is Adu and this is Ready Go Expat. So you finally decided to move abroad. You got all your documents ready, you applied for the visa, you sorted out your stuff at home, gave away some stuff, sold other stuff, you said goodbye to family and friends and finally boarded that plane. When you get to your new destination, everything is new, everything is unfamiliar. It's like a honeymoon phase, even like a trip to the supermarket can be an adventure. But as time goes by, this honeymoon phase starts fading away and mixed feelings emerge. You start questioning yourself, have I made the right decision? So, have you heard this story before? Culture shock is the feeling of uncertainty, confusion, or anxiety that people experience when moving to a new country or cultural environment. Culture shock can arise from an individual's unfamiliarity with local customs, language, and acceptable behavior. This feeling is quite common, so in this video, you'll find out what expats in China answer to the question, have you experienced culture shock? Ready? Go!
Yeah, I don't know if I would say this is culture shock. I find some Chinese, they're so comfortable when somebody spits in public and everybody's so cool and we're like, what the hell is going on? Yeah, I think that was quite a shock for me.
Yes, I've had a few experiences with culture shock, not just in China, but in other places as well, but not as strong as here, I would say. However, in my perspective, I had the feeling that I would have a much stronger cultural shock. And in many ways, I think that the Chinese are very similar to Brazilians and very similar to any other nationality. So I think like the biggest cultural shock was the thing that they have, like they do everything the last minute. So there is no planning, or if there is like, you know, out there somewhere. And I thought, even though they are very punctual, like the transportation system, meetings, things like that, they're very punctual regarding time. When it comes to dates and actually planning ahead, they basically are totally alienated to that. And I thought that was quite interesting because you've got so much development and so many things that goes on in the whole country that you would expect planning, you know, ahead, but there isn't. And I think that that's amazing, you know, they just like take life as it comes. And I think it's fantastic as well. So it was a shock, but I think it's a positive one.
Yeah, shock was that we had that in mind that myth like every Chinese people is no kung fu, martial arts, but here when I come, everyone's smoking and drinking.
Not really. Actually, the culture here it's like really loyal to the traditions, and in Mexico we are the same. So maybe the most like shocking thing for me was realize that students here sleep four in the same room. That's like, how is that possible? Because even in our rooms, sometimes it's like a really small place, and I cannot imagine how they do it. And another cultural shock, it's they are really weird at the moment they eat. It's like they do a lot of noise, and I think I'm not okay with that actually. And I don't know how to say it when they like gorp. No. Yeah. That's. I think that's the weirdest thing here.
I experience culture shock in China like every day. Every day something happens here and I'm like, what is going on? I mean, for good or bad, it's hilarious. I don't know if it's necessarily culture shock, but coming to China, like at least in Jiangxi province where I live, like just there are so many everyday behaviors that in the West would be considered rude. And it's not rude in China. Like, they can do what they want here. Chinese people are not hung up on a lot of things that I think Westerners are hung up on in terms of appearances. or how you interact with others. So that's very jarring when you come here, because there are just so many things that, like, you can bump into a person here and you don't have to say excuse me and you're not being rude, you know? And in the States it's like, you know, depending on what city you're in, it might be about to go down if somebody bumps into you and you don't say excuse me. I'm shocked sometimes, like I'm truly like floored by like my bank, like when I go to the bank, and like just the number of documents that a person, it's just like, it's not even like triplicate, it's like quadruplet of forms. And like I have never seen so much paperwork to do the simplest banking transaction, like except for here. It is insane.
No, I don't think so. I wouldn't put it in these words as no, I don't think so. I could handle it very well. I'm very flexible.
I made a friend, a Chinese friend, Emilia. And she's very kind, she's open-minded, and she was getting along with us, and we were eating with her, we were playing badminton with her, we were sharing time with her. So once I was about to say bye to all of our group, so I hugged some of them, say bye, shake hands, and then I went to Emilia, that is this Chinese girl, and I was about to hug her, and she acted like Sheldon Cooper from Big Bang Theory. She was like, and I was like, wow, just a hug for them is like a huge thing, and that shocked me a lot.
For sure, I've experienced some culture shock. There were specific things culturally that I knew to be aware of. Little kids using the bathroom in the street is kind of a normal thing here. And it's something I knew to be prepared for, so that wasn't as much of a shock, but I could see for a Westerner, like an American who wasn't prepared, yeah, super shocking.
So in China, like I was already expecting some cultural shock, and I had it, but like for a short period of time. Because when I first got here, I was really excited, but all the foreigners I met were very negative. So I was like, yay, China! And they're like, yeah, you're like this now, but talk to us in 3 months. Like, this is like the worst. Or like, they were very kind of negative about it. And this was like kind of like really shocking, because it wasn't something I experienced. It was just like an attitude that I felt like around the people here. And then I was like, oh my God, like if I don't like this, I am so far away from home. And it's like I already spent all my money coming here. Like there's no way I can turn back now. Like this is it, you know? So I think like I have like this kind of like panicky kind of like kind of, but it didn't like reflect much. But I remember feeling very anxious when I was like looking for apartments. And I was like with these people telling me like to help me choose. And I was like, no, I want to go live in the mountains. I want to live in a short building. Like I was like going up these floors, like 32 like floors. And I was like getting like really kind of like, I can't breathe, this kind of feeling. But I kind of knew that this was cultural shock and it would go away. And at the end I did decide to live in one of these giant buildings, and I really loved this flat, so it was okay.
Yeah, experienced culture shock, I think the first thing, but I was very lucky because I had a guy, an older guy who had been here for about 20 years, explain to me the different stages of culture shock that I was going to go through. And he explained to me before I went through it, and he told me basically you're going to have a honeymoon phase where you absolutely love everything. The Chinese are incredibly welcoming and hospitable. I can remember when I started my campus teaching job being followed by 30 students, and each one of them want to take you to get something to eat and want to get your phone number. And it can be quite overwhelming. I mean, if you're, I don't know, I mean, they'll feed that hubris. I mean, they'll have you thinking you're some kind of celebrity if you're not careful. So that was also, that positively speaking, that was a kind of culture shock, just the the amount of welcoming. Of course, you get some strange looks. There are looks that say, "I don't know what you are," and there is, as there is in my own country, looks that say, you know, perhaps I don't like you. But there are also tons of welcoming faces, especially out on my campus. It was wild. The other culture shock for me was space. That's when I start to think about space. In the States, we try to keep space from people. We don't really get too close, but I think maybe that's something to do with our population. I think I don't know if this is any truth to this, but maybe for a country with a small population, your idea of space is greater in terms of what kind of space communicates politeness. But here, I felt like people were much more comfortable to be very close together. Some days it felt like intimacy, like wow, everyone's just so comfortable. And then on days when I was, you know, going through my, you know, bad reverse honeymoon phase, they'd be like, no, you know, what's going on here? Give me some room, you know, you know, all this kind of stuff. But yeah, you go through culture shock, but I think it's important to know that that is a natural stage of adaptation. And I mean, you deal with that your first day of school. There's a, you know, there's a bit of apprehension involved. And so I think whenever humans do something new, there's always the idea of some type of shock. In this case, culture shock, which is just a state, or the first stage of being here, and then it all becomes manageable. That's who we are as human beings. You know, we just need time.
What about you? Have you experienced culture shock before? If so, what did you do to overcome it? Let me know in the comments below. And if you like this video, please hit the like button. I'll see you next time.